Welcome to the Engineering, Emotions, and Energy Podcast, where you can relax, recharge, and reconnect. And now, your host, Justin Wink.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening. Today, we are going to be talking about overcoming burnout. So I recently surveyed a bunch of people that have been interested in my book that's coming out, Engineered to Love, Going Beyond Success to Fulfillment. And the second biggest thing getting in people's way of living a more fulfilling life was burnout. The number one thing was lack of time. So I'm going to say that the lack of time is probably somewhat related to burnout. So burnout, definitely a huge thing of those that I surveyed. And I feel like it's just more and more common. And so it's so common that I think sometimes people don't even know what it is. And so I looked up Psychology Today. And by the way, if you're interested in the book, there's a link you can go to get updates, justinwink.com/VIP. I'll make sure to mention it again, and it'll be in the show notes. But burnout's defined as it's just a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought along by prolonged and repeated stress, often in the area of work, but it can also come in other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, or romantic relationships. And they go on to say that it's not just by working long hours and juggling many, many tasks, but it is usually also has to do with having a lack of control in how the job is carried out, and even having to do things that conflict with a sense of self. So just being asked to do something that just maybe goes against the core of who you are or what's important to you. So today I have a very special guest to help us get into this topic of overcoming burnout. He's got some great experience with it. His name is Andrei. That's the thing I forgot to talk to you, Andrei, is how I say your last name. I've never said Mikitiuk. God damn it.
Good to be here. I can assure you, even if you did ask me beforehand, nobody to my knowledge in the US who is not coming from a former Soviet Union actually can pronounce it. It's pronounced Mikitiuk, and this U sound is not what a typical American used to. So okay. Andrei is fine.
Mikitiuk, Andrei. Well, so let me tell you about Andrei and why he's one of the best people to talk about this topic. So Andrei is a seasoned technology professional currently working as a technical product manager for an international bank. So it's basically two stressful professions combined, banking and technology. So alongside his professional life, Andrei guides people in their personal and their career growth through mentorship and coaching. He's also achieved in the 99th percentile, the GMAT test, and he's an instructor at the Princeton review for that. He has a master's in finance, an MBA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and a master's of liberal arts in psychology from the Harvard Extension School that he's currently working on. He has a diverse educational background that helps him approach challenges from multiple angles. He currently lives in North Carolina with his 2 Australian Shepherd dogs, and I definitely want to ask him how that fits in with burnout, because I think it does. So you can find Andrei on LinkedIn and in Facebook. And so in the show notes, you'll have links to that. So welcome to the show. Andrei, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Justin. How are you today?
Doing great. So I know you've experienced burnout. I'd like you to kind of share your story and how you overcame. And I know you work with so many people, in tech and in other challenging professional fields. And let's maybe get to, how do we actually overcome this burnout that's becoming more and more common and problematic? It seems like the stress never ends. Or does it?
Well, it depends, I guess. But very excited to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me. And burnout has been a passion of mine for a long time. At some point,
so you're pro burnout?
I'm pro burnout. I'm pro in burnout, which and I think burnout is inevitable. Honestly, I know it sounds like a war stories, but I first got my burnout when I was 21 or 22. I started working really early, and first year in college, I worked 20 hours a week. Second year in college, I worked 40 hours a week. And I've been balancing.
That's in addition to your schoolwork, right?
That's in addition to my schoolwork. And by the end of it, and I also had time to party, which I don't know how I did all that, but what I know that by the time I was 22 or 23, I read this book, 4-Hour Work Week, and I remember crying because I felt like when I was 22 or 23, I was reading this book and I was literally crying because I felt that my life sucked and lacked any meaning. And somehow I managed to use that energy to actually write a resignation letter. And I was unemployed in 2 weeks, and then I traveled and freelanced for the next year, and that was the best experience of my life. And that's why I am a big pro sabbatical, pro taking a year off, and I actually think that taking some time off can be awesome for your career. But I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So speaking of burnout, why don't we define it first? Because I think that
how would you define it? I brought in Psychology Today's take on it, or the initial blurb, but how would you define it, or how have you experienced it? I think that's a great thing to get into.
The original definition of burnout that was created somewhere in, I think, 1975, had 3 components to the burnout. One was extreme emotional exhaustion. Mm-hmm. Second was something called depersonalization. So, and what that basically meant is a depletion of empathy and caring and ability to care about anything or anyone. And third component was decreased sense of accomplishment and feeling basically futile. Since then,
like Sisyphus just rolling the boulder up the hill over and over again. It's just always another boulder.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing matters. Everything is meaningless. So those 3 things were originally defined as burnout. Psychologists struggled to actually define it later. And if you look at the current DSM-5, which is Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is how we currently define what is a mental disorder and what is not, you won't find burnout there. This is a very interesting thing. You are electrical engineer by training. So when we're working with systems, and when we're talking about let's say we're talking about some sort of a burnout in an actual electrical system, so like a fuse or something, mm-hmm. Would you say that this is an objective thing? So something literally burned?
Oh, well, yeah, an electrical system. Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's a little smoke, you can smell it. There's char marks, and, functionality can and often is degraded or will be over time if it's not immediately apparent. Absolutely.
And I think that creates a little bit of a problem. And if anything, this name is probably helps with the misconception of the burnout. Because if we're talking of, let's talk of an traditional electrical bulb, for example. So when something burns, it is an objective root cause of the problem. And the symptom is actually, hey, we have no light. But when we're talking about burnout, when it comes to people, it's actually otherwise. Burnout is a set of symptoms. It is hey, I feel like that my life is meaningless. I feel exhausted. I feel depersonal. I feel that I don't have any empathy. I don't care about anyone. But all that tells us nothing about the root cause. And I think this is a very important thing to understand, that burnout on itself, it's not an illness. It's not one switch that is broken inside you and that can be fixed. When we're talking about burnout and what to do with it, we need to talk about, okay, what caused it and how do we fix what caused it?
Feeling overwhelmed by the daily grind? Imagine if you could pause, reset, and truly connect with a calmer, more fulfilled you. It's not just a dream, it's absolutely possible. Hi, I'm Justin, and I invite you to discover the life-changing techniques in my book, Engineered to Love. Right now, I'm offering a free chapter complete with guided audios that have already helped so many people find peace amidst the chaos. These aren't just any techniques. They're transformative practices designed to help you love yourself and engage deeply with the present moment, without even having to close your eyes to the world around you. So join us at engineeredtolove.com/sample and access your free guided session. It's time to bust the busyness and embrace the joy, ease, and love in your everyday life. Don't wait. Start your journey to a more relaxed and recharged you today, because you deserve to live a life you love. Visit engineeredtolove.com/sample. See you there.
Yeah, and I think going to the symptoms, like in an electrical system, usually the symptoms are something isn't working how you would want. Whereas I feel like in modern corporate culture, a lot of the symptoms of the burnout phenomenon actually are seen as virtues in our modern corporate culture, because usually someone that's in burnout, they end up being busier, they'll work longer hours, they will just do more stuff, might not necessarily have any impact, but often that doesn't matter. It's just going through, doing the things, putting in the effort, and sometimes not doing stuff to quote unquote get the job done without concern for others is often acceptable, or even rewarded in many companies and things like that. So that, I think, is why sometimes burnout can be even more sinister and challenging, because it's rewarded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seen as a good. Because I pretend to be busy at my tech job because everybody's busy, and so but I don't buy into busy. I think busy is bullshit. I do with my time what I value with my time. So I don't never consider myself busy in my mind.
100%.
But that's a switch I made, after going on my own 10-month medical leave, due to kind of burnout, but depression and anxiety and stuff, and didn't happen overnight to get there, but it is possible, people. So what do you think are the underlying causes?
So let me tell you a story here. So again, as you mentioned in your intro, I've been working in technology for a very long time now, so almost 20 years. And most of this time in some kind of managerial capacity as a project manager, program manager, team lead. And I saw again and again people on my projects and other projects working out to the extent when they just refuse to continue working. And that's why when I started my psychology degree at Harvard, I specifically took several classes that had to do with things related to burnout. So classes like stress coping and resilience, psychology of emotional, behavioral, and motivational self-regulation. What surprised me, that all of these classes were kind of talking about stress and resilience. So whatever way you wrap it, it all ended up with stress. And for a long time, I didn't understand it. And but frankly, now I feel that they're right. So when we're talking about burnout, there is one big underlying root cause. It's our inability to manage our stress appropriately. Stress is normal. So it's not that I don't think there was ever time in anyone's life when there was no stress. And I don't even think this is healthy to have no stress, because if we handle stress appropriately, that's how we grow. We go to the gym and we put stress to our muscles, and muscles grow. Same happens with anything else. We add some stress, we grow as people. But to do that, we need to know how to handle our stress.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Because like your gym analogy, it's like, if someone's never worked out, I don't want to take them to the squat rack and have them attempt to squat 1,000 pounds or 500 kilos or something like that. That would be an overwhelming amount of stress. But again, if I don't put any weight, then they're not going to grow or, feel like they're doing anything either. So.
And if we have to continue this analogy, let's think about somebody going to the gym and doing I don't know, like a reasonable number of squats, but something that actually requires taking a day off in order to let muscles heal and grow. But instead, the same person comes to the gym the very next day and keeps doing squats. So this, like anybody who goes to the gym knows that rest is as important as workouts themselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's maybe one of the things that's shifted in the way we've been working for the past, I don't know how many decades. It might be different than 100 years plus, that there was break between, especially if you think of maybe farming, whatever, nature would go, it's winter time to take a break from farming.
Well, invention of electricity, think about it. So before that, like it's 6 p.m., it's dark, you can't work anymore. Like it's just impossible. So you have to rest. And now we invented electricity. If you want to work, I don't know, 18 hours a day, you technically can.
Yeah, you can do any type of work at any type of the day. Whereas, before, certain types of work, that's daylight only. Maybe you have some candles, so you could be writing, but that would be a different type of work than the outdoor manual labor at the very least.
And it was probably accessible to 2% of people who knew how to write.
Right, yeah.
We definitely, like industrial revolution, definitely hindered our ability to take rest. And the further we go, globalization, working from home, especially during the pandemic, it almost destroyed this distinction between work and like home as a place where you come to rest.
Yeah, I think I saw something recently that said, a commute can be a very helpful way to disconnect between work and home and provide a transition. And so without that can be a very challenge. I work from home, and I know I definitely have to, almost force myself to like, okay, let me leave the house, or let me go talk to a human, or let me just take 10 minutes to meditate, or just anything other than just be in front of the computer. I have to be very mindful and intentional about it. But I know many people aren't, and just they, get on the computer, as early as 7 a.m. or whatever, and their butts in that seat, short of going to the bathroom and getting coffee until, well into the evening. And maybe they even do a round two before going to bed.
Yeah, everybody is available 24/7 nowadays, unless you put extra effort not to be. That's why one of the skills nowadays, I think, that is like really crucial is the skill to actually create a space for rest and relaxation. And being efficient at work. There's actually a study that I really like, and this study shows that the more people work and the less sleep they get. So basically, the more exhausted they are, the less they perceive themselves as exhausted. That's an interesting thing that stress does to our perception of stress. It almost makes us feel that we are not tired, like the more tired we get. So that is a vicious,
wow.
So
is that somewhat analogous to the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the sort of like the dumber you are, the less you recognize it, so you think you're smart, but with exhaustion, it's like the more exhausted you really are, the less you think you're exhausted.
The less you think you are exhausted, and your own legs exacerbating that. Yeah. So I think another important thing here is to there's a very useful idea of the stress cycle. I don't really know whom we should credit it to. I personally took it from the latest Nagoski and Nagoski book. That is conveniently called Burnout. It is technically written for women, but I do recommend it to everybody, along with Robert Sapolsky, Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers. So another great one about stress. So they're talking about stress cycle. And the analogy that they're giving is, let's say that somebody is we're talking about pre-industrial, pre-agricultural era, somebody is out there, they see a tiger and they have to run from the tiger, and stress kicks in, and basically stress have the only job. It activates our sympathetic system is activated, and the only job here is to help us survive. So everything that is not needed for survival is shut down. Blood goes to our muscles. Endorphin makes us don't feel pain, don't don't feel exhaustion, so that we can run and run and run and do that like as effectively as possible. But what is important is what happens next. There are two outcomes, basically. Either tiger eats you, and then no, nothing is required, or you safely make it to the village, and tiger either runs away or he's killed, and then you are in a village, and you either cry, or you tell those stories, or you hug your neighbors. So you do something to actively tell your body that it is over, that you are safe now, and
you release all sort of that excess.
You release
stress.
it. You dance, you cry, you all that. Yes, and your parasympathetic nervous system is activated, and you are basically back to normal. But what is happening in normal life? The first part of it works fine. So your boss yells at you, like your
he's perceived as the tiger, and you
absolutely
run your ass to send the emails and do the reports, and
you choose to fight or flight or freeze, and then freeze is actually another interesting one to talk about. But like you do all that, and you never close the cycle, so you never let your body to actually like understand that, hey, you are safe now, and this is a crucial thing. And if you don't do that, stress keeps building out, and eventually like it only gets worse from here.
What are some good ways to relieve that stress? I mean, sleep is an important part of that. Important things happen during sleep. Body movement. Many people don't get very much body movement. But then also, like you mentioned, like emoting, feeling feelings, having emotions. Many people are just so in their head that there isn't any crying or joy or much laughter, maybe short of what someone might have if they do watch some TV.
Like I'm 100% with you, like on physical activity, absolutely. Like after all, like you run, and like that probably helps you to some extent. Or like you go like and have like an ecstatic dance with your village, like, and you're celebrating that you're all alive. So all the traditional societies had something like that, and we pretty much lost it. But let's think about other thing that like that is funny if we think about it, how so many things that are needed to close the stress cycle are nowadays are considered frowned upon. So you cannot cry, you cannot just like yell in excitement that you are still alive, and like basically tiger is no longer a problem. You can't even do loud breathing. You can't do you can't do that in the office, right?
No.
Like people would look at you as.
And in some ways, that can be one of the good things about the work from home is you might actually have more of a chance to do some of these quote unquote weird ass things. Like just before I got on with you, I was doing 10-minute meditation where I have my legs up the wall. And I try to not even use the term meditation anymore, because most people go like, that's just another thing I'm going to be fucking bad at and is going to stress me out because I don't know how to quote unquote meditate. But I'm just spending some time with just my thoughts, my emotions, and my body in a state where I'm not going to move and I don't have any external stimulus. And in that, thoughts come up and emotions, and like, I have a little cry, and it's like noises are coming out. It's like, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that in an office, in most offices, but I feel so much better afterwards. It's like, oh, I'm settled. I'm at peace. I can be here.
Well, the good news here actually is that our bodies know what to do. Like our bodies know what they need to self-regulate. Basically, we evolved to self-regulate efficiently. And the only thing that it is a good news, but it's not easy, unfortunately.
Because we've been conditioned to, like you said, avoid all the things that our body would naturally do. It's been shamed and thought of as bad or weird, or that's what we're naturally meant to do. But we've just been overwritten with some bad programming to avoid these very beneficial behaviors.
Exactly. And one of the things that happened to me when I started doing guided meditation, I'm one of those people who were never good at meditation. And I read a number of books, visited a number of classes, and it never worked for me. But what finally did was some guided meditation where I was just lying on the floor and trying to relax every muscle. But what has actually happened to me, at some point I started shaking. And at some point I felt that, hey, I wanted to I wanted to cry, I wanted to yell, I wanted to shake, I wanted to jump. And I let my body do that as an experiment because I was like, okay, that's something weird is happening, so just let it happen. And it was surprising how good I felt after I let my body do what it wanted. And another thing that was surprising for me after I've been doing that for months, I was still feeling stressed because I didn't even started to realize how much stress did I have from my daily activities that where this cycle wasn't closed. And I don't know. I feel that that might be another thing that that is difficult for people who have burnout because they have so much stress built in their bodies that the moment they even touch that, it becomes unbearable. And what is in your experience, you probably work with clients like that. What do you do in this case? So do you ever have clients who tell you I don't want to do therapy, I don't want to meditate, it's just too fucking hard?
Because like you said, people have a habit of stress. That's the normal. And I don't know, one of the amazing things that we humans have is this ability to sort of normalize just about any experience. Is kind of just the having an old pair of shoe phenomenon where it's the shoe might be falling apart. It could have a nail in it even, but you can just put it on every day and take it off and put on a brand new shoe. It can be uncomfortable and painful, but it's one of those, at some point, people eventually get to this is just not sustainable. And what I like to tell people is that, it can be uncomfortable, but where the choice is in sort of how you go about, you can kind of choose how intense and how you go about. And I found that knowing that I can go as much or as little, and also how I do it with somebody, it's all this stuff is so much easier when someone's been there before. Cause your experience where you'd had the shaking and you were able to go with that on your own is incredible. Cause I think most people would, cause I've had those experiences too. And I was lucky that when I had it, I was, going to a place and I had a meditation instructor, and it's Manny, I was shaking all. He's oh, you're releasing energy, you're releasing tension, you're releasing all the stress and stuff. And it's okay. It's totally normal. And just, allow it, be with it. And I was oh, okay, thank you. Someone that can kind of guide and go hey, this is normal. And then also being able to know that there is that light at the end of the tunnel. I think that, there might be times where it's painful, but it's on the way to getting to feel after you gave your resignation and you went on your travel, I saw you lighting up even just at the thought and the memory and that incredible stuff. And that's always what's around the corner from any of this stuff where we feel the pain of the existence that hasn't been working for us. Because a lot of the stuff is just, how do we view it as seeing that, this is something bad or weird or shameful, but seeing as no, this is good news that you're knowing that you should be doing something different. And now we're going to get you to going to do something that you can find more joy in, more happiness, and more lit up. And and then also reasonable expectations that it's not going to always be miserable or always be 100% happy, but it's going to be a fluctuating wave. And it's not just in the future, you'll get to be happy. That the happiness and the joy and the good feelings start to interweave. And that really can be, I don't know, a beautiful mix, a beautiful dance. That, we said, used to be so common that, villages would always have dances and things like that. I don't think there's a culture that doesn't have dance as part of it, which I don't think there's a mistake.
Yeah, I think dancing is an amazing way of actually because it combines so many things. It combines rhythm, that gives us a sense of stability, because actually doing anything rhythmic is incredibly good for stress, exactly because it's very predictable, very controllable. You know what is coming, and it's an exact opposite of what is causing stress. It combines movement that is also good for stress alleviation. It's combined shaking, because you eventually shake a little bit, maybe a lot, and that's why so many dances are like shake it baby kind of dances, and that is probably not on purpose, but it serves the purpose.
And then often, as a lot of the music that people dance to will have, some vocals or something, and people often sing along, and so there's even getting to express the voice in some ways as well as part of dance is not too uncommon. And I think a lot of people don't get to just make sounds for the sake of making sounds. Sometimes it's I gotta make something happen with my voice, and
it's probably easier to make sounds when everybody is doing that. That's why there are all these sing-alongs and yelling on the concerts. Yeah, that's one of those one of the few places when you actually can do that, and that would be normal.
And you don't have to worry about people hearing you because it's so fucking loud. You can hear your
yeah. Well, that reminds me of things like dynamic meditation. So that was created by Osho. That's exactly the same idea: loud music, and you can express yourself in any way you want, and you don't have to care about other people hearing you, because it's loud outside, it's loud inside, and everybody is doing something loud too.
Yeah, and I think that expressing yourself or lack of self-expression can be a big part of the burnout phenomena. So I recently had a situation just in the last couple of weeks where it's actually a total perfect burnout story. A couple of weeks ago, I was interacting with this woman at work, trying to meet with her, and she ended up canceling and moving a meeting around 3 times. We actually ended up never meeting. She just eventually just attempted to answer the question I wanted to get from the meeting with her, just by writing it to me. It was completely wrong. Basically, we probably spent 15 minutes going back and forth with all of this in what would have just been a 10-minute conversation anyway. I was like, there's just something up, there's just something off. So I documented this and sent it to her manager. I hope everything's okay with her. And then last week, she's going out on a medical leave. And so I'm like, this is very much burnout type symptoms. And the thing is, burnout doesn't just stick to the emotional. Usually if you don't really look into it and do something, it usually does end up having medical implications. And so I got asked to cover what she'd been doing. And so all of a sudden my calendar is very full and all these things. And I said, I think I can do this coverage. Could you pair me with, one of the newer engineers? Because they actually know all of the tools and things in and out because they use them every day. Whereas the type of work that I've mostly been doing is a lot of strategic stuff. And I don't know these fucking tools anymore. And and they were like, yeah, well, we've been wanting to get somebody to have some experience, in all these meetings and things like that. So yeah, let's pair you guys together. And it's been great. And I'm so glad that I said, this is what I want. And even if I hadn't, I know the other part of my agency is that I can sort of dial back how much effort and what my hours are. So there's okay, yes, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do things my way. And I know when I was younger, I don't think I had that realization that I could do things my way. And I don't necessarily have to get permission or check in that, yeah, I'm going to be at 5:00. I'm not going to be answering any more emails. That's just one of the things I do. I might check emails because I do like to see if there's a cancellation of a meeting, but I'm not going to respond because I'm a big believer in training people in working with me how I want to be worked with, and I don't want to be answering emails after 5 p.m. So I won't answer it.
Yeah, this is a great story, and I think it illustrates so much of what we've been talking about. And if I can suggest a summary that would be in a form of advice that it is. I think it's important to realize that preventing burnout and dealing with burnout is not like a one game, but it's actually two games. And one of it is dealing with the stressors, so things that cause stress. And in like in your story, you managed to make sure that you don't get overloaded, and you want to have stress like reasonable. You don't want to have a chronic stress. But another part of it has to deal with the stress itself, because stress itself is inevitable. And that's all the things we talked in the first part of this podcast. We talked about like shaking and maybe like hugging people and feeling safe and being able to express your emotion. And those those two things, both are important. You can't get away with just two. And here was one of my Australian shepherds. And
I knew they would make an appearance, and I think they probably perfect timing to, yeah. Do they help you with your de-stressing?
Absolutely. There is a study that actually tells that coming back to the point of feeling safe, and that's like there are a number of things. There are a number of ways we can tell our body that the tiger is gone. One is breathing, because when you are running away from a tiger, you can't breathe deep. It's just impossible. So if you force yourself to breathe deep, you actually can, you're actually telling your body in its own language that, hey, the tiger is no longer here. I can relax. Another one is being able to hug someone. And the studies show that the hug should be a long one, so something like 5
seconds at least, right?
I think that I think what Nagoski's put in their book is 6-second kiss and 20-second hug. So it should be a little bit longer than that. So something that you wouldn't do normally, like something that would really let your body know that it's not like just a casual kiss or casual hug. Like you are
and
really
how long
connected.
For the genital touching?
Oh, that I don't know, but I'm sure there should be a study about that. But maybe somebody
sounds like a very, very intimate. But we probably actually do need more of that, and it'd be great if we could, not the genital touching, although that is good. That is good. But, just the hugging and the kissing, or just physical contact more and more, just to remind us that we're here, we're human, and we're physically together and got each other.
And it doesn't have to be a human. So coming back to your question, I do cuddle with my Australian shepherds. I have 30 minutes a day that is dedicated to watching something. I usually watch like old shows. Like now I'm rewatching like The Big Bang Theory, and they just come to the couch, and I cuddle with them both.
Yeah, and I don't have any animals, and there might be some other people that are like, well, I can't where I live, I'm not allowed to have. But what's great about animals is if you know somebody that's got an animal, those animals are such sluts and whores. They will let you love on them and cuddle, usually for the most part. So you can borrow that love from somebody else's, because I bet you can't keep your Australian shepherds from saying a lovely, friendly hi to anyone who visits you at your home, right?
My boys are happy to give as much love as possible. I have never seen them run out of energy for cuddles.
Yeah, which is just like a beautiful thing that I think animals can kind of like inspire us, because we have that capability and capacity within us. It's just sort of been stamped out because I want to go back to one thing you said at the very, very beginning, that burnout is inevitable, and I disagree. I think based off of our society and culture that you and I came in, I feel it's almost inevitable. But I do believe that there's other cultures, other ways that it doesn't have to be inevitable. Then that I think there's a chance that, as maybe we evolve of how we treat each other and maybe how we do business and things, and how we bring that to the younger generation, that I'd like to think eventually we can get back to a point where there was no burnout. Because I think you're going back to stories of maybe more indigenous populations and where there's villages. Like I don't think they had burnout.
Yeah, they definitely have other problems, but I think the rates of burnout are much lower, if any.
I think they probably had stress, and they had other, but I think they dealt with it as it came. But I think this systematic buildup over over decades.
And again, we probably need to reiterate that stress is inevitable. So, and stress is useful, and stress can be our friend. So it is like, it's not about stress itself, it's how we deal with this stress.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's also ends up almost being this like demonization that just any stress is bad. Got to eliminate stress. And yeah, there ends up being a lot of these things that end up being in like the popular culture, and it starts to be almost, it's almost like if you actually wanted it to produce more burnout, that's how you would position it. And sometimes I wonder if it's not a mistake, because people being burnt out is a big business, because it gets the people working harder. They just continue to work more and more, and then they consume, other things. Like, when you're saying back when you were in college, like you found a way to party. It's because human needs, they get met one way or the other. And if it's not done consciously, it's done unconsciously, probably in unhealthy and usually expensive ways. Getting drinks is not cheap. Other medications not cheap. Usually people like waste money buying other things. And so there's a benefit to other people for burnout, but just not for the person who's burnt out, not for the people that are closely around them. Like, I don't like working with burnt out people. I don't like spending much time with, I love working with burnt out clients. But I don't like to see my friends or anyone I love be burnt out for very long. And I like to lovingly help them get to that state as much as I can.
Yeah, and we're coming back to where we started, that life nowadays, and probably like post-industrial revolution, maybe even post-agricultural revolution, is like almost like designed in a way to create burnouts. And if we don't want to end there, and I hope that one day we will be able, I don't know, maybe there will be like an AI that would not let us do that, or a better way to build our societies. But where we're now, we need to understand how it works, and we need to actively do the things that society tells us is not right to do. And next time you feel stressed, just breathe.
It is just that. It's just that simple. I almost said easy, because actually when you're, really burnt out and you've been really stressed and living a life like, with the short breathing, like that deep breathing can be a challenge. It can be a little painful at first. Yet it's still soothing. It's still helpful. It's simple. It might not be easy, because I still have, over the past year, in trying to like deepen my breathing, it's like, ooh, that's uncomfortable. I start noticing places where there's a little restriction. Yet it's still super calming, and then it gets easier and fuller, and stuff just moves out more gently. So I think that breathing is, and you can get such benefit from mindfully breathing in like a minute or less. It really just takes a few breaths with intention. It's amazing.
And I have a confession to make. At some point, I thought I was broken and something was like fundamentally wrong with my lungs, because I couldn't do deep breathing without feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That is, and I guess that is normal for people who never did that. And like, maybe our lungs are just not used to that. And it takes months, if not years, to get back to this ability to even switch to deep breathing. Like, at least it took more than a year for me.
Yeah. And it's, I think I'm glad you brought that up, because all this stuff, there is no broken, it isn't wrong. Everything's actually working perfectly normal. Just we've gotten programmed to try to not pay attention to the pain and the discomfort, that when we finally do, it's like a surprise. That pain and discomfort, it's always been there. It's just we've just been ignoring it. Just when it becomes conscious, now you can start to do something about it. And you can always ease off. You can go back to the shorter, more comfortable breathing, because it's just going to happen. But as you make the effort, your capacity to breathe, your capacity for stress becomes bigger and bigger, and it gets easier. And like you said, eventually it's like, oh, I can breathe in as deeply and fully as my body was designed to do, and it can be comfortable, like, and just just automatically,
that feels good.
Yeah. And I think I just want to say that, all of the stuff, it is so much easier if you're working with somebody, so if you've got a friend, great, a family member, great too. But if not, that's where people like myself and Andrei, we love to work with people that are like, hey, I want to figure this out. I don't want to be burnt out. I want to learn these things. And I want to know, is this okay? Is this normal? So definitely either reach out to me or to Andrei or to anybody. And honestly, it's almost anybody that you feel comfortable working with to start the road. You're not going to regret it, because the alternative is it's just more of the same. And actually it just gets worse, just gets more miserable if you don't address it, and eventually you just die.
I think it would be fair to say that both Justin and I probably learned it hard way, and we didn't start doing what we do, like coaching and helping people to reach fulfilled lives. We started because we had problems. We've been working in tech for a long time, and we've been those like stressed and burnt out people, and we had to go through all that. And frankly, the reason I'm doing that because I suffered for many years with being burnt out, being depressed, being unfulfilled, and I just want to help people to suffer a little bit less. That's why I'm doing that.
Yeah, because the suffering really can end whenever you decide, and it's so much easier with the help of others. Because I know it got really bad for me, yet when I was talking to some other people about, that got really burnt out, all their stories usually involved an ambulance going to the hospital. That was usually there. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to get to that point. So I at least didn't get to the point of needing to take an ambulance, but I was pretty bad. I was in a pretty bad shape. And I've got podcasts where I talk about that. And it sounds like you also got to a really, really bad point. And whenever you decide you've had enough, and it's okay. Yeah. There's no bonus points for more pain and suffering. There really isn't.
Yeah. No. I had a point in my life when lying face down on the floor wasn't a metaphor. So that was really what I did. And that's why I've been studying psychology for so long. That's why I've been going to retreats, hundreds of hours of therapy, all of that. Yeah, because I wanted to figure it out for myself. And now I just want to help other figures to figure it out, maybe with a little bit less effort.
I love it. Yeah. And I love your expertise, Andrei, and your insights. And it's always been great talking to you. And I know I've gotten a lot out of this, and I'm sure the listeners have too. So yeah, you can find Andrei on Facebook or LinkedIn. And if you want to find me, that's also in the show notes. So appreciate it. Any last things, or all good, Andrei?
Just wanted to say, love being here. Thanks again for having me. And I want to wish all people who are listening to us who are currently burnt out to find a way to get out of it. And there is a light in the end of the tunnel. There is a way. And with us, without us, I hope that you will do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not feeling burnt out, but you know someone it is, forward this show along. Yeah, share the good possibilities. With that, thank you, Andrei, and thanks for listening, and good day. If you want to contact the show, email me at podcast@justinwink.com. That's Justin, WENCK. And find me on social media, Justin Wink, Ph.D. on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want ways so that you can relax, recharge, and reconnect, find the Tuesday 20 every Tuesday at 12:05 p.m. Pacific. It's only 20 minutes, and it's going to get you relaxed, recharged, and reconnected. It's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook. So looking forward to seeing you there.